Hey folks, David Dole here. So, Hillary Clinton is in the process of releasing a new book titled What Happened? And in the book, she makes a number of claims against Bernie Sanders. So, in this video, I'm going to go over those various claims and see if what she says is true or not. So, let's start with the first quote. When I finally challenged Bernie during a debate to name a single time I changed a position or a vote because of a financial contribution, he couldn't come up with anything. So what Hillary says here is partially true. She did challenge Bernie during a debate to come up with a position that she changed because of a financial contribution. But the fact is, she actually has changed a position based on a financial contribution. So here's Elizabeth Warren talking about the bankruptcy bill.
The credit card companies have been pushing to try to tighten the bankruptcy laws, sort of like locking the doors to the hospitals and then claiming nobody's sick in America. So they were trying to get the bankruptcy laws constricted, so that fewer families could get in. Why? Because you can make more money if those families don't go into bankruptcy, if you're a credit lender. The last bill that came before President Clinton was that bankruptcy bill that was passed by the House and the Senate in 2000, and he vetoed it. And in her autobiography, Mrs. Clinton took credit for that veto, and she rightly should. She turned around a whole administration on the subject of bankruptcy. She got it.
And then?
One of the first bills that came up after she was Senator Clinton was the bankruptcy bill. This is a bill that's like a vampire. It will not die, right? There's a lot of money behind it. And
the bill her husband had vetoed.
Her husband had vetoed it very much at her urging.
And?
She voted in favor of it.
Why?
As Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. It's a well-financed industry. A lot of people don't realize that the industry that gave the most money to Washington over the past few years was not the oil industry, was not pharmaceuticals. It was consumer credit products. Those are the people, the credit card companies have been giving money, and they have influence.
And Mrs. Clinton was one of them, as senator.
She has taken money from the groups, and more to the point, she worries about them as a constituency.
So that was Elizabeth Warren back in 2004, being honest about how Hillary Clinton has changed positions based on financial contributions. And this gets down to one of the issues that I had with Bernie during the primaries. He didn't push Hillary hard enough. He just didn't want to, for some reason, didn't want to go there. And I think ultimately it may have cost him the primaries, because if he was harder on Hillary, he may have actually won. And this gets into this next quote. Nonetheless, his attacks caused lasting damage, making it harder to unify progressives in the general election and paving the way for Trump's crooked Hillary campaign. So this claim by Hillary is absolutely nuts. Bernie used kid gloves on her. And if you don't believe me, watch this video of Barack Obama talking about Hillary Clinton in the primary in 2008.
When Hillary Clinton says I'm out of touch, I just have to remind people of the track record. All right? So now this is Senator Clinton. This is the same person who has taken more money from lobbyists than any other candidate, Democratic or Republican, taking more money from drug company lobbyists and insurance company lobbyists, and she's saying, I'm out of touch. Who do you think is out of touch? This is the same person who took money from financial folks on Wall Street and then voted for a bankruptcy bill that makes it harder for folks right here in Pennsylvania to get a fair shake. Who do you think is out of touch? This is the same person who spent a decade with her husband campaigning for NAFTA and now goes around saying how she was opposed to NAFTA. Does that sound like she's in touch with Pennsylvania? Does that sound like she's in touch with you? This is the same person who says she's voting for the Colombia trade deal. Turns out that her top advisor, her top strategist, was working for the Colombian government to get the bill passed. Does that sound like she's in touch with you?
So if you follow the 2016 primaries at all, you know that Bernie didn't say half of the stuff that Barack Obama said about Hillary Clinton in 2008. And again, that's part of the reason why I wasn't satisfied with how Bernie ran his campaign against Hillary Clinton. Because if he did make the same points that Barack Obama did, and that people have been making for years, Bernie likely, in my opinion, may have actually won the primaries. And we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in with Donald Trump. And the claim that Bernie made it harder to unify progressives is an insane claim on a number of levels. First of all, that's the point of primaries. You're supposed to run against your opponent. You want to win. So, obviously, Bernie Sanders should and did make some claims against Hillary Clinton in order to, show that his campaign is different. So he had a different platform. He talked about his platform and how his platform is a better platform for the country. That's how elections are run. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to run against your opponent. And that's what Bernie did. But again, he didn't do half of the attacks that Obama did against Hillary Clinton in 2008. And the idea that Bernie made it harder to unify progressives is even more nuts when you realize that the 12% of Bernie voters that voted for Trump in the general were Republicans before they were Bernie voters. And that's something I covered in a previous video. And add to that a massive 24% of Hillary's voters in 2008 voted for John McCain over Obama. So when you look at 12% of Bernie supporters voting for Trump, even though the vast majority of those were Republicans before they voted for Bernie, 12% is a small number compared to 24% of the Hillary voters that voted for McCain. So it's nothing. Now, let's get on to this next quote where Hillary discusses how Bernie apparently would copy her plans but make them better. We would propose a bold infrastructure investment plan or an ambitious new apprenticeship program for young people. And then Bernie would announce basically the same thing, but bigger. Okay, so this claim, including the two examples that she uses, are just complete lies. So let's get to what the reality is. So on infrastructure, this is from The Hill on January 27th, 2015. Senator Sanders files $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Now, here is a New York Times column from November 30th, 2015. 10 months later, Hillary Clinton unveils $275 billion infrastructure investment plan. So her first claim in her example about how she introduced an infrastructure plan before Bernie Sanders is just a complete lie. Bernie introduced his January 27th, 2015, a $1 trillion investment in infrastructure, and on November 30th, 2015, 10 months later, is when Hillary Clinton released her plan for $275 billion infrastructure investment. Now, let's get to the second example in that quote, where she talks about how she also introduced a jobs program for young people before Bernie Sanders. So this is a column, or this is an article from the Washington Post on June 4th, 2015. Bernie asked Congress to spend $5.5 billion on 1 million jobs for youths. So Bernie's jobs program for youths was announced June 4th, 2015. And then 2 weeks later is when Hillary Clinton announced hers. From CNN, iMillennial vote, Clinton pitches apprenticeships. So just more lies from Hillary Clinton. Now, Bernie Sanders was actually just recently asked about this by The Hill. And since Bernie is such a terrible guy, he must have come back with a really hard-hitting response to really get Hillary back for these claims that she's made against him. My response is that right now, it's appropriate to look forward and not backward. I'm working overtime now to see we overturn Trump's decision on DACA, pass a $15 an hour minimum wage, and next week I'll be offering a Medicare for all single-payer system. Our job is to go forward. And when pressed further on the specific allegations that Clinton makes against Bernie in her book, he simply says this: I'll let the people decide. So there you go. Let the people decide. It's what Bernie's done his entire career, even when it comes to criticisms made against him. And in many ways, he likely knows that people will make up their own minds and believe what they want to believe. So I'm just here to show you the facts. The facts show that on these issues where Hillary blames Bernie, whether it was him going too hard against her in the primaries, we know that's not true because of how Obama ran against her in 2008. When it comes to her not changing a position based on a financial donation, we know that's not true thanks to the bankruptcy bill and Elizabeth Warren's recounts of it in 2004. When it comes to claims that Bernie just copied her plans and made them better, we know that's not true based on the news that came out when Bernie announced his plans compared to when Hillary announced her plans later on. So, this book is clearly full of Hillary's own recounts of reality. And I'm just here to show you what the actual reality is. So again, believe what you want to believe. If you don't believe me, then make your own video and show me how Bernie is to blame. But all the facts point to the reality that Hillary Clinton is the reason that Hillary Clinton lost the election.